Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into some of the changes that have altered the current landscape of Mythic Plus. We have some of these changes for a week now and I am curious, has the impact been enough? Or is there more to be done by Blizzard? They've made some crucial adjustments that are not only balancing the difficulty but also making the progression path feel a lot more accessible, especially for those of you running in pugs. So what has changed? Let's break it down for those who do not know. So the first thing we need to talk about is the Gilded Harbinger crest. These are really important for upgrading your heroic gear and getting high-level crafted gear. These gilded crests are now farmable at +8. Let's be honest here, last week doing +8s had no value at all. If you would do them, you would do them just for rating. If you needed heroic track item upgrades, you would do the +7, just because they are that little bit easier. And if you need the runed crests, you would have to find a 9 group, what wasn't always easy. So the Gilded Harbinger crest. Getting these crests have become a bit easier to access now.
With these changes, at least now I can feel like I'm getting me hands on better gear without having to pull me beard out over a +10 key. Blizzard's finally given the casual tank a break. We can get our shinies, one step at a time.
So a lot of people were frustrated with this bottleneck. Upgrading your gear has gotten a tad bit easier now. You can now farm those +8 keys, get your crests, and upgrade your gear without hitting that pretty nasty +9 wall. You would expect that this change should make the climb to +10 and higher keys a bit smoother for everyone. But what if the +9 wall was not the wall you were facing? What if you are stuck and can't pass +4? Maybe you are just a noob lord that needs to get better. This is what many elitists would probably say. Well, I've seen many complaints on forums and in our guild chat. And I must be honest, I don't know what the solution is for people stuck in this bracket. But Blizzard did make a promise, and that was to make it easier for the casuals and make it more challenging for the diehards. And one thing is clear to me, Blizzard will lose the interest of a lot of players if some of these things are not addressed. Maybe the community needs time to adapt to these changes. Time will tell if the casual community is willing to do so. Still, there have been some other changes, and I suspect for the people who really love the Mythic Plus system, they will stay no matter what happens. So let's talk about something that's been driving the Mythic Plus community nuts. The death penalty. Yeah, the 15-second death penalty for every death is still here. So yeah, I think Blizzard should go a bit further. How about giving pug groups on the lower keys a little break? Maybe the first 3 deaths should be free from penalties, especially for groups just trying to get through the dungeon without things going completely sideways. It would really reduce frustration and also make people leave less often. Because as it stands now, many players will just leave if a few deaths have happened. I would be in all favor for removing the death penalty all the way up to +9. Keys done from +10 and higher are mostly done by pre-made teams. It are these same elitist players who say to the casual community, get good or get out of Mythic Plus. So let them be the ones to deal with the increasing death penalty. So they have the bragging rights that they do the higher difficulty with more affixes. This would make it so Blizzard keeps its promise to both parties. As they say, there are 2 groups of players, the ones that do Mythic Plus once per week for their vault, and then there is the more serious key pushers that want more challenge. So let them have all these fun affixes and be done with it. Then we have the Zealot's Bargain fix. Blizzard increased the buff duration from 20 to 30 seconds, which is fantastic. You cannot underestimate this small buff. For an affix that pops up so often, now to be 30% longer, I expect this to have a decent impact. This combined with the hot fix of this week where Blessing from Beyond cooldown reduction now has had a small nerf. A reduction to 30%, and now instead of getting 15% of healing taken, it grants everyone 20% of versatility. This is really nice for tanks, and it also benefits other classes.
Ho ho ho! Hold ya horses, Brinks. I'm gonna need to jump in here for a second. As a dwarf who spends half his life with a shield strapped to his back and a healer yelling at me, I gotta say, I love these changes. Yeah, see, when you're tanking, it's all about keeping the party alive and staying calm when things go sideways. This basically happens every time with pugs, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Thorin. And thanks for interrupting me. Speaking of making things easier, those scaling challenges at +12 keys, they have now been adjusted. Zealot's Guile now only increases enemy health and damage by 10% instead of that brutal 20%. This is a big deal because the jump between +11 and +12 was just too punishing before. Now, the scaling should feel a bit more manageable, and I even expect it will be doable for pugs. This combined with the dungeon-specific nerfs too, which are really smoothing out some of the more frustrating encounters. For example, in Necrotic Wake, Gatekeeper Rat's health and damage were reduced by 25%, and the count contribution from skeletal monstrosities is up by 20%. So those big pulls you were dreading, they're going to be a little less daunting now. And then there's Stitchflesh. This guy was a nightmare, but his health has been dropped by 20%, making that fight far more manageable for pug groups.
I gotta say, those health nerfs to Necrotic Wake? Chef's kiss, lads. 'Cause let me tell ya, trying to keep Stitchflesh busy while the rest of the groups are fighting their own war is like herding cats.
And over in Stone Vault, we have got similar adjustments. Bosses like Scar and Marak both had their health pool size reduced, making those key encounters a bit more forgiving. Blizzard's clearly listening to feedback, and that's always a great sign.
Ha! It's more manageable now, but don't ego slacking just 'cause the boss lost a few pounds. And don't even get me started on that death penalty, Brinks. 15 seconds. That's about how long it takes me to actually finish my keg of ale, right after I drop dead. But let's be real. If Blizzard gave us a couple of death freebies, I wouldn't mind. Of course, it saved the poor healer from throwing their mouse across the room every time the DPS decided they wanted to tank for a change.
Good points as always, Thorin. Tanks really have a different perspective on all this, especially with the way things can spiral out of control. But don't worry, Blizzard's making it a bit easier for us all, and that's what we like to see. All in all, these hotfixes are a really positive step. Blizzard is showing that they are paying attention to what the community is saying, and more importantly, they're acting on it. Maybe in smaller steps than some would like. But it's great to see that they are willing to make these changes mid-season and not just wait for a new patch cycle. This is the kind of stuff that makes me optimistic about the future of Mythic Plus. If Blizzard keeps this up and continues fine-tuning the experience, I think we're in for a much smoother ride through the rest of the season and seasons to come. So what do you guys think? Do these changes make Mythic Plus feel better to you? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button if you found this video helpful and subscribe for more content. We've got a lot of Mythic Plus gameplay and tips coming your way soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's go crush some keys.